Hello and welcome back to another episode of Very Good Video Games. I'm your host, Levi, and I'm joined once again by Scott and Dylan. Guys, how's it going?
Howdy, I'm good.
Hello there.
Doing good. That's good. Hey, I just want to ask you guys, have you ever seen the movie War of the Worlds?
No.
Okay, what about Close Encounters of the Third Kind or Arrival?
Oh, well, Arrival I love. But third
Mine is just yes to all.
Yes to all those.
Nice.
Well, that's good. I mean, if you've ever seen those movies, I know they're movies and this is a game podcast, you'll understand the connection I'm trying to make here is that they're very similar, in my opinion, to the game we're talking about today, Somerville, spelt with an O and not a U. It's not like.
Do we know it's called Somerville and not Somerville?
Yeah, I guess I did just assume.
Or Somerville.
Yeah.
Somerville. Yeah. That's the game of today's podcast. Somerville is developed by Jumpship, a studio comprised of former Playdead developers. Playdead being the guys who are behind the classics such as Limbo and Inside, as we talked about previously, which I can really see the DNA or influences of those games in this one here. But before I go any further, I should just say spoilers ahead, so you've been warned. And without further ado, we can, I guess, just go straight into talking about our thoughts on the game.
So, just a small correction for the description is that the main person who worked with Playdead was actually the producer. What's his name? Dino Patti. Dino Patti. So he was
not Dino Patti, as I think
I said it last time. Yeah.
We even have a friend named Dino. Come on, man.
Yeah. So the main person at Jumpship who worked with Playdead was actually the co-founder and producer Dino Patti. And there's actually not many, or I think even Playdead said any creative developers that are in common between the studios. And it's mainly the producer that is similar. And the reason I'm getting into that is that I think a lot of my reaction to the game can be understood as this is produced by someone who worked with Playdead, but was not on the creative development side.
Oh, okay. Well, good to clarify that. I was under the understanding that, there was multiple developers from Playdead, but that's even more surprising to me, seeing as I've found there was so much stuff in common with Inside in regards to like graphical design, like art style.
Mm-hmm.
And puzzles and like just the environments and stuff, and like the controls were very similar, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
they definitely are similar in keeping things very simple. The graphics have always been simple with the Playdead games, and same with the controls. And they both go for an environmental storytelling. Instead of using any sort of writing or vocalization of the story, you kind of have to infer the tale just by what you're seeing.
Yeah.
Very minimalist design.
Yeah, minimalist would be a good way of putting it.
I guess a good place to start off then would be just at the beginning, talking about environmental storytelling and stuff. There's no dialogue or anything whatsoever in the game. And right off the bat, when I saw the family get out of the car and I saw the dog, I wrote down in my notes like, oh man, this dog's gonna die, isn't it?
Oh my god.
Like, yeah, dog's dead. Yeah. Oh man.
I actually was really impressed with how the opening went, where it has the initial shot of, as we said, it's an alien vision story. So there's the shot of the ship, which is just a vertical line in front of the sun, and it kind of
just a huge monolith or obelisk, that is just very like intense too, where you're just like, yeah.
And he holds the shot for quite a while, and then the first shot of the family is actually them in the car overhead and just driving along the road to their house.
I actually liked that a lot. It was very cinematic. It was a good setup.
It was very good. Like, basically, I would say that actually my favorite part of the game was basically that first shot, the shot of the car, then it kind of panning down as they get out of the car, and you're almost like at a remove, like you're watching the family. And then it cuts to them sleep on the couch, and you can hear, like, on the TV, there's clearly something going on, but it's only the kid that's up. So it kind of feels like you just don't understand, or they don't really realize that, oh, shit's going down on the TV, and really sets the opening scene. Like, I was actually kind of like scared to move because this kid's gonna get fucking jumped, isn't he? Like,
yeah, I was expecting the kid to get ripped out of that window after you pull out the drawers in the
Yeah.
kitchen to get up there. I was like, oh, okay, now the dog's gonna die, and now this kid's about to die. I just know it. This game's just gonna tear at my heartstrings.
But
absolutely.
yeah, that intro is amazing because what I like is the way that they kind of do like this jump scare where it just shows the family sitting at the couch because they're like watching some horror movie apparently.
Right at the
I
beginning?
Yeah, right at the beginning. Isn't that what's happening?
I interpreted it as like it was a news shot of like the alien invasion happening because it
I
started
thought
like
that they
flashing
were
similar colors.
maybe. I thought that they were watching some sort of show and then like they're the transition of that was supposed to be a little bit of like a silly jump scare.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think it was, like, just from, like, the silly noises and stuff coming from the TV. I think it was and, like, the fact that they're watching it with, like, an infant child. I don't think they'd be watching a scary movie necessarily, but
Well,
doesn't really
maybe
matter.
X-Files then. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was done in a way that it was supposed to be bit, like, jarring all of a sudden with, like, the loud audio from the TV and within the quiet setting that they're in. Um,
Yeah.
but moving on from that, I have to say I was very confused with like the order of events going on because the kid gets up and you like right away I got the sense that it's like midnight, like middle of the night kind of thing, maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m. And then after you go through the events of the kid exploring and stuff and getting intrigued by the crazy lights going on outside, then the parents wake up to the kid crying because he fell into the garbage.
Yeah.
And then so both parents like, all right, well, let's get up. And then you take over control of the dad, the main character of the whole game, and then you proceed to go through, I guess, like with the morning routine of getting the dog's bowl and then like feeding the dog, and then like it just seems like you're like starting your day. And I'm like, wait, what time is it right now? Like,
Yeah, maybe it was supposed to be a late dinner because you don't because as we find out later, it is in the UK, so it's very far north. So it could be like kind of
mm,
fall winter,
right,
where
yeah,
it's like early, it gets dark early. I mean,
yeah,
it's 5 o'clock now, and while we're recording, it is pitch black.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It is
So
really dark now.
northern hemisphere things, you know.
Hmm.
Something I just loved about this game and with the previous games from this Dino Patti man being a part of the other ones, is like the subtle ways that they don't like just guide the player like a super hard way and like in a set like mission pointer kind of stuff like in classic games. Like there's like a bunch of just really subtle environmental hints of where they want the player to go to guide you, like super just like I don't know, super subtly, I guess is the way if you could say it. And like for
it
example,
they sorry they basically guide you using the color yellow in this game.
Hmm.
oh, for things to grab onto.
Yeah,
At least.
because
Yeah.
I remember it's like I don't know what I can or can't interact with, and then I started to clue in that like there's a certain tint of yellow objects
Mhm.
that are just like you can interact with those things.
Yeah.
So that's how they guided you in the environments.
I was gonna say it's an interesting issue because, in contrast to Inside and Limbo, where it was all 2D for the most part, you
Mhm.
interact with things on like one plane. Um, in this game, it took me a while to figure out like what I was supposed to be interacting with. Like I wandered that kitchen for quite a while as the baby, just trying to figure out like what do I do? And
Mhm.
they basically only show the interact prompt once or twice before, and then after that point, you're supposed to like figure out when you're supposed to interact with something.
Mhm.
Essentially, it'll tell you when you have a new type of button to press one or two times, like this is what button you press. And then afterwards, you're meant to use context clues for the appropriateness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did feel it was a little bit lacking in some of the in regards to exactly what you have to interact with, like you're saying.
Hmm.
But in regards to what I was talking about, I'm talking more about like guiding the player where to
Hmm.
go, more or less. Like, I guess a good example is right off the bat playing as the baby, like the little red light blinking in the darkness, like right near the front door as the baby, like that is prompt to unplug the little fox light toy thing. It's just like little things like that. And then when you come back into the main room, you see like the subtle light coming from the kitchen and stuff. Just I found it wasn't fully consistent. I felt like the first part of the game was the best at evoking that kind of direction for you, but like I felt the parts that it did do it were super strong.
Well, I feel like one of the first times I was a little stumped was, I think, with the boat crossing the river, because I did not notice the handle on the
Yeah.
boat that you could
Mhm.
grab.
Yeah.
And that kind of messed me up for a bit. Then actually just right after that, I was even more annoyed because there's a well with a bucket in it that you have to bring up. And
Mhm.
I obviously immediately clocked the well because it had a yellow handle. And I was trying to interact with it and nothing was happening. So I was like, I must have to do something else first. But there was
Yeah.
nothing else to do. It was just not working.
Mhm.
And in fact, that was something that really annoyed me was I just felt like the game maybe could have taken like another month or two of development of just like ironing things out. I found that a lot of things were jittery with the animations.
Yeah,
Mhm.
a lot of the interactable jet animations and stuff, and particularly with those interactable cranks, like anytime you had to crank a wheel or like pull something in a direction, it wasn't exactly clear which direction you had to hold.
You know, you have to spin your toggle, I thought.
Oh, okay. I played on keyboard, and it's just like you had to kind of guess the direction they expected you to have for up or down or something, and it wasn't always consistent. It was yeah. That is jumping ahead a bit though in the story. I kind of wanted to talk about more about narratively what happens after and if we're still at the kitchen with the baby thing. Uh,
Sorry, we were talking about interactives. I just thought I'd mention
yeah,
the
yeah,
yeah.
no, it's a very valid point though, and I was looking up a couple reviews before playing this game, and a lot of people actually didn't really like this game. It seems, and a lot of it seems to be with those issues itself, like the janky animations and the interactable stuff not being super clear.
So I'm going to jump in and actually say that I actually am kind of in the same boat as the reviewers, where
Mm,
I don't dislike the game. Like I know when I dislike a game, and like I still wanted to play it the entire time. But the reason why I started off in like emphasizing that this is the producer from Playdead, not the Playdead developers, is that to me it feels that a lot of this is um a lot of the issues are like they know broadly what the Playdead developers did, but didn't quite nail the specifics in the way that really made it land.
mhm.
So, for example, in like I actually started I thought, oh, I'll boot up Inside and play for like 5 minutes. I ended up playing like 45 minutes for this podcast because
Oh,
I was just
wow.
like, damn, this game is actually really good.
Mhm.
But one thing that's really important in it is that it's extremely physical. Like you interact with things, and it feels very physical in Inside. In this game, I'm actually getting ahead of myself, so I'm gonna back up. So I boot up Inside, and right away when you drop in Inside, you just start sliding down the hill and walking in one direction. And
Mhm.
then it gradually introduces information like you're in dark forest. Oh, there are guys rounding up people. Oh, they have flashlights and white masks on. You don't want to get caught by them. It's very direct and relies on sort of very basic psychology.
Mhm.
In this game, one thing I noticed right off the bat is that it was unclear what I was supposed to be doing. And I feel like it was because I was playing as a person. And so when the dad character stands up, let's just call him Sully Somerville, because I assume Somerville refers to his name. Um, it's like it takes a minute to realize like what would he do in this moment? Okay, the dog's kind of walking around, so I guess you're supposed to grab the dog's bowl. And I guess should feed him now. And it relies on you inferring a lot of information from a lot of different possible choices in a
Mhm.
way that you didn't have to do with Inside and Limbo because of the simplicity and the directness of how it instructs you about how to interact with the world.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Um, I I kinda liked that. It's not, like, fully like, there were some parts where it was a bit frustrating, but when it came to being a bit more vague with what you have to do and just giving you really subtle hints, it kinda left a lot more up to your own interpretation, and I don't know, it's my mind is kinda stuck in between 2 points of, like, I like the kind of freedom to let the player really solve, I guess, the puzzle of what you have to do at that particular moment. But then it's also kind of like, I wish it would kind of just commit to more of a hard line approach to telling you what to do, just for game design's sake.
Well, the part of the reason I'm bringing it up now is that so to sort of get on the plot, as you're feeding the dog, all of a sudden the aliens start slamming you with, like, I don't know, basically little monoliths that strike your house. You run outside to go to your car and it destroys your car. And then you run into the basement, and then a ship crashes into the basement, and like there's a sort of pilot hanging out. And the dad goes and grabs his hand because that's what the contextual button prompt is. And in that moment, it's sort of like, why would you possibly do that at that moment? Why would you not just slam the door shut and hide?
I did write down, don't just be touching strange people crashing through your home.
Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm trying to get at, is like in the previous games, they were very smart in the way that they limited your choices into things that you feel are natural for the character to do at the moment. In this game, there didn't seem to be the same care as, okay, given the situation, this is what the player would think is reasonable to do in that moment.
Yeah. Regarding that very pivotal part in the narrative, though, with the ship crashing into the basement, into the house, and breaching even the basement, I actually didn't mind the decision for the character to be made to reach out and touch the hand, because like at first it's like it's presented as like a very like alien thing, like holy crap, like obviously like we're under attack by something, but like in the background I could see that like it was these monoliths floating in the sky, but then there was also what appeared to be like a opposing force and like these like weird spaceship jet fighter things also like, shooting at them and fighting. So my mind instantly went to like, oh, like these are two, I don't know, armies or something, like two alien forces, like that just maybe have happened to chosen Earth as a battlefield, and humanity just kind of stuck in the middle of it. And so when I saw this humanoid crash and like outstretching their arms, I initially wanted to go and investigate further, and then when they reached their hand out and kind of help, I was like, oh, geez, like what is going on? And then the thing that made me want to actually like help them out was when the helmet came back and I saw there was a human, or at least what I assume was a human just from the looks of it.
Yeah, some sort of humanoid. It's hard to actually. I can't even remember what I saw because it was a while. Like
I think there's disagreement about whether or not they're supposed to be like modified humans or if they're another type of alien.
I really like thought about it a lot, and I was like, I don't know if it, like you said, Levi, if it's two different aliens that are warring against each other. That's the thing that was really tricky to figure out because, a little jumping ahead here is just like there are those little roly cuties that you meet, and it's like, okay, these guys are chill, they're friendly, and then you come across like the quadrupedal ones, and it's like they are, let me tell you, not chill. They're very scary, and they don't like me.
They are not the vibe.
They're not the vibe.
Yeah.
One thing about them, one thing that I like is that like as they're bringing groceries into the house, like at the very beginning, you can see one of the monoliths way in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Right when you go outside.
And
like,
I just thought that was funny. Yeah. It's like they just don't notice it though, but we see it as the observer.
Yeah. But just because of the frame of the shot.
One thing about that intro that I really like is that it's the suspense of it, like it's coming, but you just don't know when it's gonna happen. And also just the sound design, it just, I don't know, sound design is so much of the suspense and fear that it was done quite well, I thought.
Yeah. That's what I wrote down right off the bat, like just with that intro, with like we were talking about before, with the alien ship floating in the obelisk floating in front of the sun and whatever. Right off the bat, I was like, oh my gosh, sound design 10 out of 10. Like this, like I can already tell is going to be an amazing experience just to listen to. But yeah. So going forward from there, then you touch the alien's hand, and then you get a quick like snapshot of some sort of facility of that alien person, like is strapped into some sort of bed thing and getting like shocked or something. It's like so quick that it's meant for you to be like, what is going on here? What? And then your guy passes out and falls to the ground, and then the wife is like, oh no, and is all in distress. And it's assuming that the way it's portrayed is that like the guy dies, and then I guess it fades to black and comes back, and you're in a jacket all of a sudden. I don't know how. I guess the wife put a jacket on you in case you were cold or something.
Very nice of her. Yeah, that was so nice of her before she leaves you.
Yeah.
He's dead. He's gonna need his jacket.
Not the jacket like over top of him. Jacket actually like on him on
like
his arms.
like put on, like properly put on the like just gotta dress him. But yeah, and then it revives you. It kind of like jump starts your heart, it seems, and then you from there have to go on and figure out the question of what's happened and where's your family, other than the dog's there still.
Of course, the loyal dog stays.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're the one who feeds him.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's why dogs love their owners, is because that's where the food comes from, and that's love, right?
That is how it works.
Yeah. So going forward from there, I was really like it left me confused about a couple things, like why the family would have just left in such a hurry while taking the time to put on a jacket, but then I mean, obviously, like they were leaving because like everything was still under attack. But another question was like, how much time must have gone by for this person, for like the player character to have been revived? Like it seemed like, oh, okay, it must have just been like a short amount of time because the brain can't survive without oxygen for more than like 8 minutes max or something like that before it starts breaking down. I mean, I guess we're dealing with alien technologies, so it could be space science magic stuff.
It's space magic.
Yeah. Which a lot of this, I guess, kind of is.
Yeah, I mean,
yep.
I will say we're there. He gets some cool ass space magic. Come on.
Yeah, he basically gets the ability to manipulate his arm that he touched with the alien, whatever. That he like to glow this blue light that, when manipulating other light sources, can melt this alien matter kind of structure stuff that fell from the sky. And
again, a very cool visual effect.
Oh yeah, yeah. I love the design of it too. It's just like a geometrical, digital, organic kind of living liquid stuff. It's like very alien. But going forward, that one of the first things that I caught my attention that you alluded to before, Scott, was the little roly poly kind of alien droid things, and those are something that you bump into like throughout the entire game. But you notice how they kind of blink and like try to like seems to communicate with you?
Of course. That was the first thing I wrote down.
Yeah.
I was like, funny little alien rock rolling around. Seems to be trying to communicate with me.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not that subtle.
It's really not that subtle.
Yeah.
It's actually a major thing for the end, but we'll get there. The first one that you find, you kind of just like it's funny because it's basically how you would react to anything that you've never seen before. You kind of just go, you kind of just go taken aback for a second. It's like, are you gonna attack me or are we cool?
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that's not at least like familiar to humans in general. Like if you were literally to see that in real life, I would have probably done the same thing. Like, what the hell is this thing? And like just stood there really. But
I've been on the internet too much. I would have just thought that it was a classic prank.
It's a prank, bro.
It's just a prank.
YouTubers come out from behind the burning wreckage. Jake Paul, I should have known.
Exactly.
You go through this forest section after like the open fields and you escape the house and stuff. And it was at this point that I really got the sense that a significant amount of time seems to have gone by, and not just like a couple minutes or even a couple hours. So I was really starting to get like super confused. And then you start going through the forest and you start noticing this like mechanical looking man in the background with like a red glowing light and stuff. And
yeah, because he keeps watching you like from a distance and it's like, well, I'm being hunted.
Yeah, and that was my initial reaction as well. Is like, oh, this is like some sort of like human hunter or something. But the fact that he does purely just watch you, even like in some scenarios you get closer to him and he just like watches you walk by and then sometimes even just like walks away. Like I started getting this sense that like he wasn't necessarily hostile.
I think the thing about it is that it's that red glow that we typically associate with, bad, unless it's a Disney movie and it's that sickly green that they like to use for their villains. Red usually means bad.
Yeah. So going through the forest, like seeing this man, like this creature mechanical thing with the red light, and having that big sweeping beam of light coming is ominously like pulling stuff up off the ground. And I found the environmental like just atmosphere and stuff of everything going forward. I keep saying, I'm going to keep saying this. I love the atmosphere, I guess is the perfect way of putting it. Like this game did a really good job at setting the tone and mood and stuff of.
It was, yeah, of course, it's like their previous games. They just kept that suspenseful, like kind of, you're always a little worried something's about to happen.
Mhm.
Yep.
Or it'll also, it will lull you into sort of like calmer moments. And then I kind of thought of this thing called jump suspense, where all of a sudden it's very like you're on edge, not necessarily scared, but you're all of a sudden just like, I need to start moving. I need to get to that spot.
Oh yeah, okay. It's kind of like a
Mhm.
step down from full blown like jump
It's not a
scare.
full on jump scare, but you're just all of a sudden like, okay, stress response is on
Mhm.
halfway.
Yeah. That's a good way of describing it.
There is something in the background I do not like,
Yeah.
and I think I need to speed up my dude.
Well,
Yeah.
it'll a very specific one that you're about to hit, Levi, in the woods is when the the purple tractor beam is right behind you. It's like, okay, we're
Mhm.
gonna start kind of jogging here, and
Yeah, and that the movement speed in this game is super inconsistent, but
you don't
it
even
really.
you don't have a run button. You just have to. You're just at the whims of the game's programming.
Yeah, but
Question: did anyone else, despite knowing that it did nothing, keep holding the A button to try and run?
I think
Nope.
once in a while I would hold down shift because I played on keyboard and mouse, be like, please just let this make me go faster. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you were saying, the game is very, I guess, it's good enough at letting you know that you're at that heightened stress response time and like you need to run. But going on through from there, and we did talk about it briefly with the little roly alien dudes. Like you guys obviously found the little grove of aliens, having the one stand on top of the rock and communicate to the other ones, and them doing all those little patterns and stuff in the ground. Um, I spent an embarrassing amount of time sitting there watching their patterns and movements, and like being like, okay, this game's trying to teach me something. Okay, and so after I thought I had memorized enough of the movements and got into the clearing, and most of them ran away, but one stayed, and like I tried, like, communicating with it. I was like, "What is going on? How am I messing this up?" And then I'd reload that save and go back and watch it again. Like, I spent, like, at least a half an hour just trying to, like,
I
nail
spent
this down.
quite a while
Yep.
thinking that I was like, I can communicate with these guys. But
Yeah.
the thing is, they keep using a color that you don't have. So I'm like,
Yes.
it didn't make any sense where I was like, maybe there's like this new game plus thing that we're supposed to be doing where
Yeah.
we have more colors and then we can communicate with them.
Yeah, I started going in that direction too.
Yeah.
It was at that point too where I was like, I am I just dumb? Can I just not understand like what they're trying to communicate and what I'm supposed to do here? And I was like, after a point, I was like, I'm just gonna blow past these. I don't care anymore. I'm just gonna see if I found them. Okay, yeah, I'm not even gonna try communicating with you anymore. I'm just going on. But I just have to reiterate the problems with interacting with the environment and the interactables is this part here with the obelisk in the water and then like the boat that you're supposed to use to cross it. And like I didn't get for a long time that like after you disturb the waters and then the obelisk opens up its eye or whatever and starts scanning the area, like that you're supposed to go into the water and like pull the boat over. Like I don't know why it took me so long. It's just because like the lighting was so minimal that I couldn't see the yellow handle of the boat
I
itself.
think it's also the camera angle as well was a reason that I think it was not super obvious. But the
Mhm.
thing is, it is obvious when you think about it. There's you literally move the boat towards you, and there's nothing else going on. So it should be obvious. But again, it's like something
Yeah.
Dylan said earlier, where their context clues aren't the greatest in this game.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another thing is that previously, just a minute before, the dog leads you to the tent,
Mhm.
right? And that's how you survive the tractor beam, right? So you see the dog hoof it the other direction, and so you're like, "Oh, I'm gonna follow the dog."
Yeah. No,
Mhm.
that's what I did too. And I tried finding the dog like in the bushes. You can hear it still whining, and so I was like, "Oh man, I gotta find the dog, or else I'm gonna die." And then all of a sudden, you just
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
expand
So
over there.
that's why it wasn't
That
super
was a
clear.
bad design, badly designed part. I
Yeah.
thought.
An example of something that I think happens a few times later where the expectations the game is set up for you about how the puzzles and the navigation work get violated, and you get kind of stuck.
Yeah. Well, okay, so skipping ahead a bit, one of my favorite parts of the game was the mega concert for the alien invasion and the end of the world, it seemed.
I don't know if that's actually the context of that concert, or if it just happened to have a UFO
it did
structure on it. Like, I don't know, there's concerts where they have things just to fly around and, you know,
Alien Fest kind of thing, and it just happened to be at this. It was just a coincidence. It was at the same time that an actual alien invasion happened.
It was very cute.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of art direction, right before that point was right before then where it had all the tents that you go through.
Yes. Yeah, it's before that.
I thought that was really actually, now that I think about it, were those tents set up for the concert or was that because of the alien?
See, this is where I was confused as the purpose of the concert, because it pulls you through the tent city and it really evokes a sense of like dread and like people being homeless and like all congregating together for safety. But then and so like at that point you feel like, oh man, this is a super bleak scenario. But then you keep going through and you find this concert and you're like, wait, what? So like, what is it? Is this a concert? And then is this like the tenting part for this music festival? Or and so that's why I came to the conclusion. I think that it was both. It was a concert for the end of the world, and it just happened to be where everyone congregated because it's like, hey man, world's ending. Let's party, and there's aliens. Let's have a wicked concert like in their honor.
I'm not convinced by that interpretation, but I still like it.
Oh yeah, I mostly just like it.
Same. I agree with Dylan. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where I actually ran into that puzzle where I actually got the wrong solution, but still progressed. So as I said, I replayed Inside a little bit right before the podcast, and what I noticed is that the game is very physical in that your character has a lot of weight to him. You interact with things very like naturally in the environment, to the extent where like early on in the game you trip over this branch and you get caught by one of the guys chasing you. As a way to teach you, you got to jump over this. In this game, I felt like a major problem was that there was sort of a lack of physicality to a lot of things, where it felt like they could have done more to really have your character feel like they're interacting with the environment. And the reason why I'm calling it here is that it's actually when you get to the concert and interact with the guy at the tiki bar. So for that puzzle, what you're supposed to do is there are these lights that you're supposed to grab, and you're supposed to sort of wrap around a tree and haul the lights over to shine on this structure that is too high up to walk the lights to. But the thing is that so far, and even this point, I noticed like how non-physical everything was, to the extent where I was like bringing the pole with the lights attached to it over and like clipping through the guy. So I actually didn't logic out that, oh, I should be able to wrap this up around the tree over. So I just pulled it like so hard towards the ladder you're supposed to climb up and just kept shining the light, and that was enough to melt the structure.
Oh, really?
Enough to walk through. And
that's hilarious.
I watched a video later that showed it, the correct solution. I'm like, oh, that's how you're supposed to do that. But
that's a funny note, because I remember that was maybe the only puzzle that I made a note of that I thought was quite clever. And you're right though. There's not a lot of physicality, like you kind of said. But it just made sense, because you're so limited, I find, in your options in the game, that there's only you have to figure it out, because there's not much to do in the game.
Yeah. There are a few puzzles like that where I felt like either, I mean, in that case, I just straight didn't get the solution. But other ones were like, okay, it wasn't really satisfying to learn that. I was just frustrated. A really bad puzzle design thing that I noticed a few times, where the solution is what you're already doing, just do it a bit harder. I feel like that does happen a couple times later on, where one time you have to like melt the structure, but you have to melt it all the way down for it to count. And another time you're supposed to like jack up a car, and
the bus one is actually stupid.
Yeah,
I did not like that one either.
Where I moved it, and like I moved it up enough that I should have been able to fit through, but it wanted one more, and it's like, okay,
no. How did you even know to go underneath it?
That took me a while, honestly.
Well, no, the thing was that I moved it up a few times. It seemed like, oh, okay, the wheel is like high enough for me to get through. I tried and it didn't go. And I'm like, and just wander around pressing stuff until I pushed one more time and got through.
Oh man, see, I didn't even like parse out that you were supposed to go through the wheel well because most vehicles, it's not like that shape of a wheel well the entire way through the body of the vehicle. It's just like where the wheel is. So I was like, I
Bro,
wasn't thinking like, oh, that's a tunnel through the car for me
Levi,
to walk through.
Levi,
Levi knew too
that's
much about
because they're
cars.
not. That's because they don't have that.
I know.
But like, no, the only reason I got through was because I was wandering around, just absolutely confused, like just going back and forth. And I was like, I don't get this at all. And I just happened to, hey, this is where the jittery fucking jankiness of the game actually helped me. It kind of moved me towards it, and I ducked down for like a second. And because there's no duck button in this game, I was just like, okay, was that by accident or on purpose, right? Like, did it just, so I just happened to have gotten lucky, but this was after for like so long, just like walking around being like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they need a few more passes at the puzzle design.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because that's sort of how the previous Playdead games functioned, is they maybe do a little bit of platforming based challenges, but they're mostly making sure that a puzzle is solved for the most part. And all the puzzles in this I found were kind of, I don't know, just uninspired and stuff.
A lot of it was just to do with either melting this alien matter and then like having the alien water liquid stuff like rise, like lift up objects or something. Or actually, once you encounter the red robot man, you find out he's one of those
I
humans.
was calling him the paladin because he had thick armor.
Oh yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I like that.
I was calling him the giant nerd because that's what he looks like when he takes off the helmet.
Yeah, so you get his red light power, and like that can harden the alien liquid material stuff. And so I can't remember exactly what part of the game it is that you get that second ability, basically.
So just to keep the linear order, I'll jump in. Right after the concert, you get chased by one of the leopards that shoot those spikes at you. And then the giant nerd comes in and smashes him and saves him.
Yeah.
And then you go into these mines, and like an idiot, as the guy opens the door for you to go through, you walk across a beam that's clearly gonna break. And the guy has to save you and ends up dying in the process.
Yeah. Saves you because like ends up dying because of your dumbass. Yeah,
Like,
no,
I'd be racked with guilt if I were the main character that happened to.
yeah, that was clearly a critical blunder on the main character's part. But like narratively, I don't fully understand why he was helping you specifically, and I guess it's maybe because he saw you had like the blue power in your arm or something. But I guess we'll get more into that when we get to the like ending sequence kind of thing. But I thought like finally adding on a new ability from just being able to melt alien matter into starting to harden it, well, like it felt good to have an extra puzzle solving element to it, but like I felt like it came a little too late. And then going forward from you're in these mines and stuff, you have to solve a bunch of puzzles with mine carts and stuff. But then you end up getting out of the mines and you slide down the river and get washed down and find a town, and then you finally find like civilization, the humans and stuff who are alive, and get pulled into this supermarket superstore thing and get reunited with your family.
Yeah,
And your
actually, that
dog.
was a really
And your
the dog,
yeah.
your actual loyal dog, yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought that was a kind of a nice moment though. Like you walk into like the like basically the kids' room that they've allocated for the survivors, and they've got this big like blanket fort up, and that your kid runs out to you. I was like, ah, yes, finally.
Yeah.
And then
Actually,
you
that was
go ahead.
a very sweet moment also just because I don't know if maybe just because I started thinking about a very I don't think the game was trying to say anything about this, but it just got me thinking about all these people are basically just they're in a refugee camp, and this is on a global scale that there's just everyone's a refugee in their own country. And it just got me thinking about like how nobody chooses to be a refugee and stuff, right? And
Yeah.
people
Oh yeah.
got to come together and help each other, right? And people were.
Yeah. No, it was really nice.
It was very good representation of essentially treating the alien invasion as a natural disaster.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
because it's something that's totally out of everyone's control. It just happened all of a sudden, and there's a widespread destruction and death and displacement of people. And yeah, natural disaster is the closest thing I would allocate it to too.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you end up like developing this like kind of cough, and that's where it kind of reminded me of War of the Worlds a little bit. I'm like, oh man, is this like opposite War of the Worlds, where like in War of the Worlds the aliens get sick from the human parasites or viruses or bacteria, but I thought maybe like having the arm thing was starting to infect your main character, and I don't know if that actually ever was necessarily like debunked as a yay or nay there, but
I think it's because he had to hide in a couple of porta potties.
yeah. At first I was like, okay, well, we're at this like nice refugee camp, I guess is a good way of putting it, like you said,
A
Scott.
nice refugee camp.
Like it seems like relatively safe. Like they have like what seems like some supplies, and they have some security with like the guards guarding the door.
Okay, so actually, yeah, you're right. It is kind of a nice little refugee area, right? And they've got supplies there. And for some reason, we don't know why, because they don't tell us anything with the story. The family leaves.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought.
They just go.
At first,
and they melt the door not the door, but the alien structure that's blocking the door. And I'm like, so are the like robot panthers just gonna get in now and kill everyone?
You just screwed everyone over. Just because I found my family. Okay, now we're leaving. We're not staying here where it's nice and safe and there's lots of people. We're going to our own place. But no, that's what I thought at first too. I'm like, why are you leaving? I don't understand. But it's because like you have to find, like the wife is trying to find like medication for the husband's cough. And so what you then seem to find, like not like, well, you find it pretty quickly, but then and so after that point, it's like, okay, we found the medication. Let's go back, because like, what else are we doing? But then you just keep going. You're just like, let's continue an adventure. Now that I have my wife and infant child with me to put in danger as well.
Yeah,
but I got the melty arm and the rocky arm.
Yeah,
I suppose it'd be a pretty boring game to just end it there.
Yeah, right. So,
but so then the Avengers show up.
Yeah, well, at least one of them.
Well, I was calling her the ninja.
Yeah, I thought she was really cool.
Basically, it's the pilot, the paladin, and the ninja for me. Like that's what I was calling those three.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
or actually, no. What am I talking? It's Samus. It's basically Samus.
Actually, yeah, very similar, like gun arm and very fast power armor stuff. So you start getting chased through the city streets by these panther character robot things, and then you get to this church where you then encounter this paladin or the ninja person, and she starts shooting at them, and you run through the church, and you go all the way up to the top of the bell tower of the church, and then a ship comes, and you start boarding it before your
ditch
wife
your
and
family.
Kids. And then, well, you aren't technically ditching your family. Like as you're boarding, the ship gets hit.
You know what, they ditched you, and you're gonna ditch them. Okay,
that's true.
Yeah,
payback.
Exactly.
Take that, wife and kids. So yeah, you get taken in the spaceship. You just leave your wife and kids behind, which I'm surprised the watchdog alien things didn't skewer them. Like I guess they're trying to skewer you because you have like the power in your arm, I guess. And they just abduct everyone else or something. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure you see.
This is one of the things that I'm confused about. This is the thing that I'm confused about. Yeah, that guy that was driving away in his car gets destroyed.
Yeah, right.
In the tent city. Yeah, he gets destroyed. He doesn't get kindly floated away.
Yeah.
He gets smushed.
Yeah.
He gets skewered or smushed at the same time. So that's the thing that's confusing. I don't know what the end goal is for the invaders.
I think we should talk about that when we get to the ending, because
we will.
That definitely
is major. I know. Basically, the next thing that happens is they bring you to their secret underwater lair.
Yeah. And they subject you to these tests. You have to walk around like a lab rat.
Yep.
Activating lights. Even though they're clearly under attack, which at that point, I'm kind of like, why are you guys like doing these tests on me and like showing this like council of other, I'm supposing are humans that or maybe
humanoids.
Humanoids.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure one of those in the like foreground that was just in silhouette was a straight up robot.
So yeah, you get brought to this underwater facility, and this is where I was really questioning, like, my theory up until this point was that like, oh, it's like these two like warring alien factions, and then as the game started progressing more and you run into the paladin and then the ninja lady, I was like, oh wait, so these are humans. Like, is this like a secret society of like highly advanced like alien humans that like adopted alien technology that have been like always on Earth, and like that's why they came out when the alien invasion happened or something? Because like it's really vague about it, and like this facility that you're in seems like it's been there a while, so I couldn't make heads or tails of that.
That is
That's fair.
possible.
Yeah.
I started to question whether or not it was an alien invasion at all. I thought, oh, maybe like because in the initial flashbacks, there's the one guy that's like standing on the balcony behind them as like the people are strapped into the like gurneys essentially and getting
Yeah.
shocked. And I thought, oh, maybe it's like there's different human factions that developed advanced technology and it's not aliens at all. I'm pretty sure it's meant to be aliens in the end, but
Yeah.
again, it was very vague, and I'm wondering if there's like more supporting evidence for one theory or not.
Yeah. The biggest thing that clued me into the possibility of it being a human faction that adopted alien technology was the ships themselves. Like the front look a lot like F-16 fighter jets or whatever they're called,
Yeah.
but like mixed with like the back ends being like very, very clearly alien with like the jets and everything. And yeah, so I don't know. It's something that I didn't come to a conclusion on. Like I still don't know if what the story was with them, even though once you get out of this underwater facility, you get put into the gurney again with the ninja lady, and then the third gurney is empty because Paladin gave you his red power, and so you get like lifted up as the underwater facility is like getting fully breached by the alien forces, and then you start this very long sequence of blue, red, purple, blue, red, purple. Like,
I
I
was
just
shocked how many times they made you do that.
yeah, me it definitely went way too long to the point where in my notes I just wrote down blue, red, purple, blue, red, purple.
Funny if I didn't mind it so much, that sequence. I sometimes like longer, more meditative sequence. I like how slowly the
Bro.
thing powers up and
No, I don't mind some slow build up. Like I was like, okay, this is cool. Like they're building you up, and then it just kept going. It was just like, okay, this is becoming comically long.
With it being that long, I was trying to understand what the developers were trying to convey to us as like the player. I was like, hey, so with this going on as long as it is, this is getting to the point of it being ridiculous, but like they must be trying to hammer in something to us that like they're trying to teach us something that I don't know what it is though. Like other than like you got the third power, which is both triggers pushed down to make purple. Yay. Which doesn't take that long to teach the player.
it's not that it doesn't take that long to teach, but it's also something that you see coming from a mile away. It's like, I got a red power, I got blue power. Okay, when am I going to get the purple power? I see purple lights everywhere.
Yeah.
The purple was being used for during the little balls like communication as well. So you
yeah.
knew it was coming as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another spot where I was like, hey, is this game just like smarter than me? Am I too dumb to understand what's trying to convey to me? But then I didn't have any more time to think about it because then you get shot out of a cannon, like Super Saiyan or like, I don't know, some sort of anime style.
I'm still very much shocked by that. I was like, all right.
The tone shift at that section of the game is so jarring, I feel. Like,
yeah.
I feel like I actually quite liked the tone it ended on, and I liked the tone before that. But that Avengers section to me was so... It's the only time... Okay, so my feeling of the tone is that I think the tone set by the initial scene was really good, and it held... at least artistically for most of the game. I did feel that a lot of times the gameplay, when it got really clunky, kind of broke that immersion. But that section of the game is the only time I feel like they lost control of what they were trying to make the audience feel.
Yeah.
It truly felt kind of weird.
I mean, I was on board with the tone shift, like as jarring as it was, but I was like, okay, here we go. This is about to get badass. We're getting shot like out of this awesome cannon. I got superpowers now apparently because I'm smashing through these giant alien spaceship obelisk things, and my guy's fine.
For me, it hooked me back in. I thought it was very important.
Yeah,
like I'm not gonna lie, I was getting a little bored of the game at that point, and it hooked me back in.
But then it comes to a screeching halt. I feel like it builds up all this like momentum and energy, like, oh, here we go, stuff's about to go down, and then all of a sudden it's like beep, okay, Like you're back at like the beginning of the game, and it's like this like dream sequence kind of stuff, and I'm like, what? It's like
I liked the trippy dream sequence though.
I liked it, yeah, but
Mhm.
it just was like totally. I was expecting like almost like an action sequence where you're going through and using your new purple power, which like I was assuming was going to be like a blaster or something like that, like to like start like shooting all these like aliens and stuff or
It just
whatever.
becomes some Contra metal slug shit.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was expecting, okay, this is gonna get like really awesome because that last sequence was dope. Like that was so cool. And then it just totally shifts into this dream sequence. Like you have to basically retread your steps that you've done through the game, but like in like a really abridged form. And it's almost like a hologram or it's like in your mind or something. It's not really it's alien. It's like perfectly alien, I thought.
I liked the dream sequence. I feel like, at least for the start of it, though, it was a little bit too. You got to retread a few too many of your steps. Like you actually
Yeah.
have to do the reaching out to the guy and the initial scene in the basement. It's only after you get the red power in the dream sequence that starts to really diverge from all the paths you walked before. And you start to see the little kids in their simulated realities.
Is that what that
Uh,
was?
I think that was the idea, that they were basically abducting people and trapping them in simulated realities.
I
Right.
And that's
very
what they
much
tried to
thought,
do with you.
no, they did do it with you.
They did. That's what they did.
You
But
are
then you
you
could melt
are
through.
in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are in one, and it's very much that Matrix thing where they have you trapped in this reality. I don't know for what purpose, but they have you in a simulation for sure.
Hmm.
Right.
Because think about it, they're using like this light technology to build and build and deconstruct hard surfaces.
Hmm.
So they
Like
have the technology to have you in some weird dream sequence simulation of
yeah,
anything to keep you just there. But
yeah, that's true.
you're different because you have the power in your arm.
Yeah, you have
Yep.
the ability to melt that alien matter
That's
or
why
harden
those
it.
three,
Yeah.
as Dylan has called them, the Avengers, are interested in you because it's like they supplant you in there so that you can break free.
Yeah. Actually, something I noticed is a really subtle thing in the background of the underwater facility is that when like all the scientists or whatever are like discussing you, you can see on the screen a pie chart of it's like less than 50%, it's like 40 or so percent of like a kind of beige color, I don't know, like lighter skin tone pie slice. And then it has a fair sized chunk of blue and then like a smaller sliver of red. And
Hmm.
so I thought it was like that was representing like the amount of human you are still, and then like the little bit of like blue alien power you have in you, and a little bit of red alien power. And so I think maybe I don't know they were like studying you for being able to have like sure like eventually like at that point you know you're going to get the purple power as well. But like maybe they're
Hmm.
like, oh, this is a human that can also have all three powers. Maybe this will work or something. It maybe
Yeah,
something to do
something
with
like
you
that.
being human
Yep.
and having these powers was the driving force for you to be able to to get through this dream sequence.
I think it totally was. Yeah.
Yeah, which also brings me back to the idea of like these super powered humans, or maybe they're not actually humans. Maybe they are just another alien race that just happens to look very human, which is ridiculous in a game where one of the alien factions is actually like like the complete opposite of that idea. Like it's like so alien that it's like totally not recognizable by anything from our planet or our understanding, which I thought was a good design for an alien race. But yeah, I just thought some of that design stuff was pretty inconsistent there. So I don't know. Let's get back on track with the dream sequence. So you get through, you get back the blue power, you get back the red power, you start freeing these kids from these like simulated pods.
In terms of tone shift, it was very interesting. Sort of
Well, I was gonna
melting
say you
the.
kind of skipped ahead
Did I skip ahead?
a little bit
Hmm.
because because you're not breaking them out. You're just finding them. Like when you find like
Oh,
you're freaking them out. But but before that even you end up sitting on a couch with your family and it does this weird thing where you end up alone sleeping or dead.
Yeah, so that is actually you. That's an
It's
optional
considered
thing.
it's a
that's one of the endings.
Yep.
apparently that's considered one of the endings and it
Yep.
was very confusing because the game didn't end for me.
Yeah, right.
I think it just reloaded
It just reloaded before,
the
yeah.
checkpoints are very generous in this game. Same
Yeah.
with the other games where it's like it checkpoints like every couple minutes and you can
Yeah.
reload from there.
It was I was like, oh, I got an achievement. I was like, okay, I don't know what that means, but cool.
Yeah.
It was interesting, but yeah, considering that would be one of the endings, you just dying is like so weird.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, but
Yeah.
that actually wasn't the first ending I got. Like when I saw the wife and kids sitting on the couch there, I I walked up to them. I'm like, "Hey, what are they doing here?" And then I didn't like put down the flare. I like activated the blue power and I melted them. I was like, "Oh god!" I guess
See, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, it totally caught me off guard though. But like my first reaction was like, "Oh, like I should sit down, shouldn't I? Like, how do I do that?" But I accidentally pushed like the blue button, and I was like, "Oh, I melted them. Whoops. Okay,
You can
on to
definitely
the
do it
next thing."
again later on.
Yeah,
Because they show up again.
I went back and got a bunch of. I think I got all the endings actually, but
I noticed. I saw all your achievements.
yes, thank you very much.
I don't enjoy the game enough to go for all of them.
I thought they were easy enough to get, and I wanted to see all the endings anyway.
Yeah, they're easy enough, but
I looked it up.
Yeah, I just looked it up, but we're not there yet.
We're right at the precipice of the conclusion of the game, though. So you get all the powers. You go through this dream sequence, getting the blue, getting the red, and then you come across the ninja lady, and like because you haven't had a previous encounter with her where you get her power, you have this like almost like a view into like her mind or something. I don't. It's
well, it's you get you finally like interact with her. And when you've interacted with all the different Avenger characters, you see little glimpses of the past. You actually as you re-interact with the blue and red guy, you see a bit more information about the invasion. Like I think you see the main monolith and like stuff splitting off from it when you touch the blue guy.
Right.
You get a bit of extra info. And then you finally touch the purple lady and get the like full use of the purple power, which you use to free the kids by sort of melting part of the simulation and then revealing an orb that you essentially blow up with the purple power. The thing I was staying at where it's a bit of inconsistent tone, you find another kid riding a bike, and the way you free him is you have to freeze the ground under him as he passes light and make him eat shit.
Off of his bike, yeah.
Yeah, and I just like laughed my ass off at the climax.
That one was very funny.
It's like it's such a weird choice for the end of the game where like why would you do that? I feel like they had the clever idea of like him riding the bike and going through the light, and that they should have scrapped that idea.
Yeah. And I didn't understand like the purpose of releasing those kids from those pods. Like, was it just trying to train you for one of the endings in the game, or what?
But then you swim up right after. It's like nothing really happened to make you not swim up.
Is that
or
what
no? Wait,
happens?
you break out of yours. No, yeah, you've already broken out of yours, and then you start breaking kids out,
and then you come up to the final,
and then you go up
the final scene of the game.
Top.
And
basically, yeah, the final scene, exactly, yeah.
Final scene of the game where you come up over this reveal, and there's like this huge like amphitheater ring of people, like all standing
and everyone's holding their hands.
So yeah, you get confronted by these three obelisk alien gods, of each representing a color: the blue, the red, and the purple. And then they start making these like tones at you, like the same way that the little round alien robot things have done throughout the whole game. And so the only thing that I had like kind of discovered at that point was like the three blue pulses, like bing, 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 and then that would get a consistent, I'd say 95% of the time, consistent reaction from the aliens. And so that's the first thing. Like at first I just started copying what the big bosses were doing, and then shortly after doing that sequence a couple times, like your house rises up from the middle, and I was like, what the heck? And so for some reason it didn't fully clue into me that like I wanted to walk down towards it. So I was like, this is kind of strange. Like, why are they just like showing me the
very
house?
Confused about that.
Yeah. And
I did not see the pathway to walk towards it. Yeah.
I didn't see the pathway at first, and then I was also like, well, I don't want to go to my house. I want to like that doesn't seem like a good conclusion. I want to like figure out what's going on here. So I just kept on going, and then apparently that was like one of the endings is going towards the house, and it's just kind of like
the second resignation, I believe they called it.
Yeah, second resignation, where you just
Or
like
second offer.
Yeah, and I don't know what it's just supposed to be like. The aliens are trying to just like, hey, okay, like just here's your house, here's your kid, family and kid, like just live here. If that's what you want, right? Human, like I don't know.
It's basically offering you a peaceful version. Like it's offering you to go back into what I was calling like a matrix prison, because I think that they were basically trapping you in these simulations. It's just going to give you a peaceful simulation that you want.
Yeah.
You know, some people might argue that that is an ending that they would enjoy. I believe the next one, actually, it's funny. So, I don't know if you guys were paying attention, but I made a series of notes of all the color. Like there were sequences throughout the game that I kept
Colors and
noticing.
shapes.
So I would just like take a quick little like Steam photo, right? And I thought that those were going to be used at some point, and I tried all of them for that end part, and the only one that did anything was actually the 3 blue pulses.
Yeah.
That gives you the family first ending, I believe it's called.
Yes.
And basically it brings up another one of those orbs that you were breaking people out of.
The simulation pod things.
Yes, and basically you break your family out, but you end up dying.
You have to sacrifice each of your colored powers in order to break them out, and then it kills you in the process.
Yeah, exactly.
Then that was the first and natural ending I got. Like, and
Okay.
apparently you
That was
have
the
to
third
get.
one I got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That ending, you have to. I looked up all the endings after that point because I was like, okay, well, there's
I was gonna
obviously more
say
endings than that.
the fourth ending was my favorite one, which I didn't think about right away, but was very funny. It's not the good ending. I would argue it's probably the worst ending.
Do you mean the purple ending where you just
purple ending?
blow everything up?
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Yes. So I ended up just fucking, blowing us all to high hell.
Sorry, that was your initial ending?
No,
Other
that
than,
was
like, just staying on the couch?
that was the fourth one. I did first, second resignation, then I did family first, then I did fuck everything. And then I just didn't do the fifth and final good ending because that was just too much effort. And when I looked it up, it was barely worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's basically that I looked up and I was a bit confused. So basically that you have to respond with certain sequences given one of their outputs. Like they'll give you a sequence and then you give a different one that you've learned.
What it is you have to go to each of the little orb aliens and they will give you a sequence. It's basically a part of a longer sequence.
That's what.
So
Okay. That's what I thought.
Well, I thought you did it though, Levi, or did you look up how to do it?
I just looked up that last one because I didn't know how many endings there were, and so I just wanted to complete it just so I can see all the endings.
I had a gut feeling that it had something to do with the aliens, like just knowing that there was a good ending. I was like, I have to go memorize all their sequences. Like it wasn't enough to have all the stuff that I wrote down. Apparently it was useless, which I thought was really stupid. But apparently my gut instinct was correct because what it was is you have to find all of the aliens, like all their hiding spots.
Right.
And then write down their sequence and then do all of those in sequential order, and then that will give you the understanding ending.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
I just didn't want to do it because the game is not super fun to play.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I wanted to ask the question of what the hell was the aliens' plan? Because to me, it's like the good ending is this communication where you give them the sequences that the orbs are giving you, and then they basically go away. The last cutscene is you walking up, still with your cool like alien arm, walking back to your house with your family and dog, and you see the alien ships rising away. So it's like, okay, what is this arrival ass ending if they sent these panthers down to shoot people and kept like bombarding everyone with these pillars? Like, why is it like nice communication solves the issue in this case?
I mean,
I don't understand it.
Okay, so the way my mind goes with that, and like I had the same sentiment as you, Dylan, where I was like, what was their whole purpose at first? But then knowing that that ending is called understanding, maybe it was purely just because they're an alien race that is completely different, like even from a biological level from our own. That they just like we're just so completely alien and opposite from each other from a societal level to a biological level, that like we just did not understand what they were doing, and they didn't understand what they were doing to us in doing all those things. And you somehow just like decoding how to communicate with them in the end to get that ending is the understanding is like, oh,
Here's what thematically doesn't work about it. You don't understand what the code means.
no, I
Like,
know.
like there's
No.
no meaning to it that you can decipher. So like you're just repeating random bullshit to them, and
Yeah.
you're essentially bluff your way to the good ending.
Yeah, no, and see, I feel like with most of these games that we've played, I usually play like devil's advocate or like even like an apologist of these kind of bad, bad narratives, stuff, and I don't know, that's just like the most logical conclusion I can think of, and I don't think it's necessarily a good or concrete one, but that's what I can think of.
I think you're on the right track where I think that they see things in a very black and white sort of way. They don't understand the concept of freedom, but they saw a planet that was not necessarily good or evil. It was in that chaotic mix, right? And they had a system where they could trap everyone in a matrix of their own creation, right? So it's like, oh, you want to be with your family. Families like that's a major theme of the game is like your family, right?
Mhm,
And so it's giving you what you want, right?
mhm,
So I think they view themselves as saviors, but then there's another humanoid race that knows that this is just a different form of imprisonment. And
mhm,
so I think that's where the game is trying to go, where it's talking about family and what you want in life, but it's also talking about an ultimate freedom of choice that's
Mhm.
important to have, because it
right,
was offering you many options to save your family either through death or just having your fake family,
Mhm.
but
right,
ultimately you want the real world and you want your real family all together. That's why the understanding ending ultimately thematically is the good ending,
mm.
because you have your freedom and your family.
And your
Because
cool Avengers power arm.
Yeah.
Sorry, just keep
I
going.
suppose so. I suppose so. Yes.
You get to keep the cool powers.
But only if you
Yeah.
have alien material, which I guess there's a lot of it around now. So
I definitely don't have a conclusion with this game on like how I fully feel about it overall, but also like of what the narrative is fully about. I just have
I just told you what it is, dude.
I
exactly. Yeah.
like Scott's explanation, except it doesn't explain why they have the Robo Panthers impaling
It
people.
does not explain that. I'm just gonna ignore that.
Yeah.
Unless
Um,
that is like a completely separate thing, not related to the other alien invasion.
I mean, technically, we didn't see Robo Panthers impale people. We've only seen that one car get fully just destroyed by the one giant shard from the spaceship, and then the Robo Panthers only shot their impaling spears at you. It seems so. I don't know.
That's always just sort of been their style, though. They don't give you the concrete answers. They just sort of give you an
Mhm,
artistic expression through story. Like they don't
totally.
give you the exact answers in the lore, They don't try to
Mhm.
explain everything. We don't know if it's midichlorians that are making his arm glow, right? We don't need to know
Mhm.
that.
This
Mhm.
is part of the Star Wars universe.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like with Inside, especially, I found like the ending of Inside, like with this one, left me with like kind of a feeling of like, what happened? What would I just experience? And then as time went on, people kind of like dissected it more, and then I watched videos on it and whatnot, and I was like, oh, I guess I can see what was happening. But
I am curious how Playdead's next game is going to compare. They haven't released anything on it other than that it's going to be a sci-fi game set in the remote corner of a universe, apparently. And it's also going to be third person.
so yeah, in conclusion on the game, I would have to say my overall feelings towards it is I don't know, I definitely did enjoy the game. I'm just not sure if I would really recommend it to people going forward. Like with Inside and Limbo, like those are games I could go back and play over and over again. Like Scott, I think you even said that Limbo was one of the games that you would speed run when you were into that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think I've got like so many hours in Limbo. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, so I still definitely valued my time with this game. I didn't feel like it was wasted, but it definitely suffers from like gameplay issues and thematic issues and stuff, but
there's also some
narrative
basic
issues.
technical issues, like it stutters quite a bit. There
Mhm.
was an animation where the wife was picking up the kid and the kid like blinked out of existence for a second as like the
Oh,
animation changed.
I noticed that.
He absolutely blinks out of existence a couple times. Yeah.
This is definitely the most broken of these 3 games that I'm kind of like all relating together.
Yeah, and in all fairness, it's not made by Playdead, so
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about their next game, but it's interesting about the divorce, who's gonna turn out better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely have some
I think we can all say that, like, overall, the game itself was like, as far as mechanically speaking, it was lackluster.
mhm.
But I will say that it does suspenseful and intriguing storytelling through environment very well.
Yes.
And then as far as just its puzzles, I think they were boring and uninspired. Pretty much they're unengaging. I just can't say much good things about their puzzles. I will be devil's advocate and to say that as confusing as they typically were, it can be tough to seamlessly have puzzles in adventure games without having them feel like they're just plopping in box pushing games, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because you can get away with it in Zelda because it's been their formula forever, but like it would feel weird in this game if all of a sudden it's like, oh, you have to play Tetris to get past this wall. It's like a completely separate puzzle game that has
Yeah,
nothing to
right.
do with the adventure. And it can be hard to seamlessly have those interactive puzzles in an adventure game without
Yeah.
being like an obtuse like deviation from what they're trying to do.
As far as the puzzles go, and I disagree with you a little bit on this, but not fully, Scott, is that like they did the bare minimum they needed for it to be an interesting enough puzzle for you to be like, oh, okay, I have to think a little bit here. But like it could have been so much more involved and like just fun. They could have had way more fun with the puzzles.
There were only a
but
few puzzles where it was kind of engaging and like the
Mhm.
mechanics were interesting, and they didn't really do that much with them. Most time you're just holding down and like melting blocks. That was it.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's all the time we have for today. So thank you so much for listening. Before we go, I wanted to mention that next episode we will be playing Elden Ring. Now, I should also mention as well that we're going to be having a little holiday break here, seeing as it is Christmas, the Christmas season. So it'll be a couple weeks before the next episode comes out for sure, definitely in the new year. But please play the newly awarded Game of the Year, Elden Ring, if you haven't already played it. It's been a constant mention of the podcast and a bit of a meme on our side. Yeah, it's available on PC, and I think it's available on anything, actually, or everything, actually. So it's super accessible, and it's just a complete delight.
I've heard
I
the
don't
Game
think
Boy
it's-
version is a bit downgraded.
I don't think it's on Switch.
Oh yeah, it's definitely not. Okay, sorry, it's not on Switch. But if you could hack your Switch, it's probably on Steam Deck, which is basically like the new version of the Switch. You know, portable handheld gaming stuff. Um, but yeah. So if you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe there. If you're listening on your favorite podcatcher, please rate and subscribe there for more episodes in the future. I'm Levi, and I've been joined by Dylan and Scott. This has been Very Good Video Games. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all next time. Merry Christmas.
Purple light's coming through my window, so I'm going to start floating away soon.
Goodbye, Dylan.